Hello, my name is Brian Carter, Jr. and I am telling you about Thurgood Marshall. When you hear Thurgood Marshall's name, what do you think of? Civil rights lawyer, a judge? Well, he was that and much more. Thurgood Marshall was born on July 2nd, 1908 in Baltimore, Maryland. His father, William Marshall, the grandson of a slave, and worked as a steward in the club. His mother, Norma, was a kindergarten teacher. His father's favorite thing to do in his off time was to listen to cases at the local courthouse before returning home to talk about it with his sons. Marshall attended Baltimore's Cutler High School, where he was an above average student and put his finely got skills of argument to use as a starting member of the debate team. Marshall was a bit of a troublemaker. His greatest high school achievement was memorizing the entire U.S. Constitution, which was a punishment by his teacher. Thurgood Marshall followed his brother and attended Lincoln University. He went to school with a really gifted class of people, which included the future president of Ghana, Langston Hughes, a great poet, and Cab Calloway, the famous jazz singer. After graduating from Lincoln University with honors in 1930, he applied for Maryland Law School. Despite being overqualified academically, Marshall was rejected because of the color of his skin. This first-hand experience and discrimination in education made a lasting impression on Marshall that put a chip on his shoulder and helped determine the future course of his career. Instead, Marshall attended Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C. The dean of a law school was the pioneering civil rights lawyer Charles Houston. Charles Houston was his mentor and was notorious disciplinarian and extraordinarily demeaning professional. Marshall recalled of Houston, he would not be satisfied until he went to a dance on the campus and found all of his students sitting around the wall reading law books instead of partying. Marshall graduated magna cum laude from Howard in 1933. Magna cum laude means with high honors. After graduating from law school, Marshall briefly attempted to establish his own practice in Baltimore, but without experience, he failed to land any significant cases. Later in 1936, Marshall moved to work full-time as a legal counsel for Marshall won a variety of cases to strike down many forms of legalized racism, helping to inspire the American Civil Rights Movement. It was Marshall who ended legal segregation in the U.S. Marshall's first big victory before the Supreme Court came during the Chambers versus Florida case in 1940, when he successfully defended 4 black men who had been convicted of murder on the basis of confessions coerced by the police. Great achievement of Marshall's career as a civil rights lawyer was his 1954 Supreme Court case, Brown versus Board of Education. Lawsuit was filed on behalf of a group of black parents in Topeka, Kansas, on behalf of their children forced to attend all black segregated schools. On May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that separate educational facilities are therefore racial segregation of public schools violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. This case provided the legal foundation and much of the inspiration for the civil rights movement that unfolded over the next decade. In 1961, JFK appointed Thurgood Marshall as a judge for the U.S. Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Serving as that judge for 4 years, Marshall issued more than 100 decisions. None was overturned by the Supreme Court. In 1965, President Kennedy's successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, appointed Marshall to serve as the first black U.S. Solicitor General, the attorney designated to argue on behalf of the federal government before the Supreme Court. Finally, in 1967, the President Johnson nominated Marshall to serve on the bench before which he had successfully argued so many times before 3 U.S. On October 2nd, 1967, Thurgood Marshall was sworn in as a Supreme Court justice 24 years before retiring. Thurgood Marshall married his wife Vivian Buster Beard before he graduated from Lincoln. Their 25-year marriage ended with her death from cancer in 1955. He then married his secretary at the NAACP, and they had 2 sons, Thurgood Jr. and John Marshall. He led the Civil Rights Revolution in the 20th century that forever changed the landscape of American society and should be treated as one of the most important people of the 20th century.